Yes, dear students, a very warm welcome in Lisanics. Before to start our next topic, that is phrase structure rules. This one, PS rules, phrase structure rules. Let me recap first what we discussed in previous classes. In previous lecture, we talked about different lexical categories. Firstly, we defined syntax. This is the scientific study of sentence formation, how different sentences are formed. And then we talked about what are different aims of syntax, in which we studied that what are different elements that make up a sentence, and then what are the properties of those lexical categories. As in traditional grammar in previous class, I discussed that we use the word parts of speech, but here we will use the word lexical categories. What are the properties of those lexical categories? And we divided properties into three parts. First one, we talked about the properties of those lexical categories on the basis of semantic, that's the meaning-based criteria. Up till now, in previous classes, you have been learning the definition of noun, pronoun, adjective, verb, adverb, and so on. All those definitions like naming words, name of person, place or thing, the word that qualifies noun or pronoun, that is called adjective, all these definitions are on the basis of semantics, on the basis of meaning-based criteria. Another criteria that we discussed in previous class, that is morphological based criteria, how different lexical categories have got different morphological properties, inflectional properties, derivational properties, right? Particular property is associated with particular category. For example, if I give you one example to just repeat the previous concept, for example, we have cat, we add suffix cats, so it is turned into plural. So this is not something with the verb or with the adjective. If you add same suffix with adjective, same suffix with adverb or preposition, and you get plurality. No, it means there are particular specific morphological characteristics which are associated with every lexical category. And other property that we discussed, that was a syntactic based property. On the basis of syntax, what is the position? What is the position of that specific category in a sentence? For example, we discussed that I have no. I have no. Next, in this slot, only particular specific categories can take place. For example, I have no, I can't say up, I can't say teaching, I can't say warmly. It means only nouns can come at this position. I have no pen, I have no chair, I have no marker. So marker, pen, chair, all these lexical categories belong to the category of noun. Specific category is noun. Yes, I was trying to find out the duster. Okay, yes, this one. So every lexical category has got particular position in a blank place in a sentence. So then we further talked about different agreements, what kind of relationship that exists between or among different lexical categories in a sentence, like subject, verb, agreement, and then we talked about gender, natural gender, neutral gender, and grammatical gender. So these are all different concepts that we discussed in previous class. Today, we'll study phrase structure rules. Let me make the background for this concept. Before this, we studied the language or the different lexical categories at individual level. We discussed properties of noun, properties of adverb, properties of adjectives. Now, We see you already have this concept of phrase, clause, and sentence dependent clause and independent clauses, but now in syntax the concept is a bit different. We don't use the word clause, right? Here, why we are introducing the concept of phrase? What is the reason behind this? In fact, words appear to form a group. Again repeating, let me write. Words appear to form a group. Words appear to form a group. Let me write a sentence. The tall students came from Lahore. It's just for the sake of example. The tall students. There are certain combinations. There are certain groups. Words appear to form certain groups, and there is particular pattern behind the formation of these groups. For example, if I say students came from Lahore or came from or from Lahore, or the tall students came, there are different groupings, and those groupings or those groups in a sentence help us to understand, to comprehend the semanticity, the sense of the sentence. And in syntax, we have given different names to these groups, like we have noun phrase, adjective phrase, adverb phrase, prepositional phrase, and in all these phrases there are specific patterns which are followed, and if we don't follow those patterns, the sentence would be incorrect. For example, let me give first example, that is noun phrase. Keep one thing in mind. When we talk about any phrase, in that phrase we have one word which is dominant, which conveys the most important idea, the most important part of that group of the word. For example, if I say the boy, these are two words, the boy. Which one is important, the or boy? As you know, the belongs to functional category of words. The is adding something in boy. So boy is most important. This is the dominant part of these two words. This one is less important. This is the most important. So the most important part of the group of the word, that would be considered as head of the word. Head of the word. In every phrase there is head, and on the basis of that head, if I define head means the lexical category. Let me write the definition of the word head. The lexical category which determines the properties of phrase. head word, head, the most dominant part, dominant word, key word in the group of words. The lexical category, when I use lexical category in traditional grammar, we use the word parts of speech. Lexical category, the class of expression which share common characteristics, common properties. The lexical category which determines the properties of the phrase. For example, here, this one is the most important, right? And this one is less. This is optional. When we talk about noun phrase, it must contain noun, and rest of the words are optional. And there are different other words which are optional part of the noun phrase, as I have written. Come here. Yes, noun phrase. These brackets shows the optionality. Mean this is determiner. In traditional grammar, you have studied articles, a and the definite articles. Definite articles are indefinite articles, but here we have used the word determiner. Determines the position, this, that. For example, in traditional grammar, you labeled it like demonstrative pronouns, these, those. But here, this, that are even different numbers, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, one person, one boy, two boys. So two and articles and these, those, all these words come under the umbrella of determiners. So determiners, yes, determiners are optional. If we have only boy, it is also phrase. This is noun and this is also noun phrase. In traditional grammar, you say phrase must be the group of words that give some sense but not complete sense, right? There is no concept of class over here. But over here, only a single word, single lexical category, simply noun. It is called as noun phrase because it is head word. There are other words which are optional, like determiner may be the part of noun phrase or may not be. Next is adjective. Adjective may be the part of noun phrase or may not be. This is optional. What is compulsory in noun phrase? That is noun. Noun phrase can't exist without the grammatical lexical category of noun. And then again prepositional phrase, and there may be a complete sentence in noun phrase that I'll elaborate later on. So in syntax we have two ways . We have two ways to describe the grammatical sentence. The component of a sentence, this may be called as constituent analysis. Constituent analysis. The grouping of words into larger units in a sentence, that is called as constituent. As we divide complete sentence, larger sentence into different groups, and those groups are known as constituents. So we have labeled diagramming as well as tree diagramming. These are two ways to write down, to analyze different constituents of a sentence. Let me analyze in both ways. For example, this one, noun phrase, determiner, adjective, optional, prepositional, optional. We have the tall students. If I say this one, the tall students. Students, this is noun, and tall, this is adjective. And if I make constituents of these two one, which one is the most important, tall or students? This one is modifying, is describing, is qualifying this category, noun. So this is the most important part. So this is the head of the phrase. So this part of this group decides, is determining the property of the whole group. And because this is noun, and it would be as noun phrase. In the same way, this one, this is the, in traditional grammar this is article, but here this is determiner. Here we can use the word determiner. And now determiner and noun phrase. Why we are calling this noun phrase? Because here a single noun can be replaced in this slot. The boy, only the single word boy can replace this slot, determiner. Yes. Next, if I close this one, so the whole it would become now the and this one. Which one is most important? Again, noun phrase is most important. This part is playing the dominant role in this constituent grouping of the word. So again we would call this is noun phrase. This is labeled diagram. Another way, looking at the same constituent, same elements of the sentence. Let me write. The tall students. The tall students. Here. Now I'm going to draw a tree diagram. Tree diagram. Students. Tree diagram, basically this is a pictorial description, visual description. This is the representation of the constituents of the sentence in tree form. Students, it belongs to which category? Of course, this is noun. And this one, this is adjective. And what would be the head? Again, students, noun, and it would become a noun phrase. The title of phrase depends upon the head word. If the head word is noun, the phrase would be noun phrase. If the head word, head means dominant word, dominant keyword, the most important part of the group, noun phrase. And again, this is determiner, and it would make again. This is less important, this is most important, it would become again, this is noun phrase. So this is tree diagram. First one is label diagram, bracketing diagram, and here is a tree diagram. Yes. So if you have understood the basic concept of head word, it would be quite easy to understand or to identify the type of phrase. Next comes, we have verb phrase. In verb phrase, noun phrase is optional. And now you have already understood the idea of when we talk about noun phrase, it means there may be determiner, adjective, and different prepositional phrases, and even complete sentence. Verb phrase, let me give you an example. For example, lifted the chair. Lifted the chair. Lifted the chair. Lift is a verb and the determiner, and chair noun. Over here it is written noun phrase. The chair, this is complete noun phrase. Yes. Let me give you an example of complete sentence, and let me draw a tree diagram of that. This one. Walked the dog through the walked the dog through the park. Yes. Park, it belongs to the category of noun. Yes, this is determiner, and if I give the label to these two words, it would become determiner, and noun becomes noun phrase, of course. And through, this is preposition, and noun phrase would become as, no, through the park. Over here, through is most important. it is playing the most important part in the meaning of this sentence. This is the dominant word. This is a key word. So it would become a prepositional phrase. And then we have the dog. Dog again, noun. And it would become as, yes, noun phrase, because now dog is most important. This is not something like this, that always the word which comes first and you label according to that word. No, in noun phrase you see the determiner comes first, adjective comes first, but the dominant word is noun. So you have to label the diagram on the basis of the keyword, head word. That is another concept, head first languages or head second languages, that we will discuss in later classes. This is the beginning class. So again, the is determiner, and determiner and noun phrase makes, this is not determiner. Now dog is important. So again it would become a noun phrase, and walked, here is a verb, and it would make as a verb phrase. Yes. So this is the complete visual description of this verb phrase. As you see, verb phrase may have noun phrase, for example. Yes, here see, verb phrase may have prepositional phrase. Preposition, here is prepositional phrase, and may not have, just delete it. Still it is verb phrase. Next you see, verb phrase may have, this is optional, noun phrase, and it may not have. If I delete this one, these are two noun phrases, yes. Now the single word walked, this is now again, this is verb phrase. Don't confuse this concept with the traditional grammar. This is something different. Single verb is a verb phrase. As in traditional grammar, you have studied that in predicate there must be a single word that may be a verb. Verb is considered as heart of the predicate in traditional grammar. But here in phrases, the head word is considered as the heart, soul of the phrase. Next, adjective phrase. Again, adjective is compulsory, right? Adjective is compulsory part of this phrase. For example, if I say, let me give you example, proud to be your student. Proud to be your students. So here proud, now this one is main word, head word. So rest have to be your students, your would be determiner, students would be noun. And in the same way you can draw tree diagram or labeling of these words. There may be a complete sentence. Proud that, for example, proud, let me draw a tree diagram of this one. Yes. Proud here is, sorry, I have to draw a tree diagram, which is not possible. I have to write this sentence over here. Proud that you have passed the exam. Proud that you have passed the exam. Now, exam is a noun. It belongs to determiner, and it would become as noun phrase. Passed, again this is verb, and it would become verb phrase. Again, you have passed. At the moment, let me take it as auxiliary and right. So again, it would be a verb phrase. Right? Or I can use this one, auxiliary. this is verb 1, right? And again it would make a verb phrase. And you, here it is, you is pronoun, proper noun or common noun. All these are the part of noun phrase. So although this is pronoun, but it would make a noun phrase. And sentence is always the combination of verb phrase and noun phrase. As in traditional grammar, you study sentences, the subject, verb, object, or sentence is the combination of subject plus predicate. Here, sentence consists of noun phrase and verb phrase, right? And that you have already studied the concept of complementizer, the word that completes the sentence, because this word, it is introducing a new sentence, right? For the completion of the sentence, for the completion of semanticity, for the completion of meaning. So this would be a complementizer, and it would become complementizer phrase. And proud is adjective, and it is adjective phrase. You see, in adjective phrase, this adjective is compulsory. This one is compulsory, proud, and rest noun phrase. We have noun phrase. I can delete this one, right? Noun phrase. Verb phrase, again, this is optional. I can delete this one, right? And again, noun phrase, we don't need this one. Complementizer, we don't need. So single word, adjective, it must be present in adjective phrase. In adjective phrase, yes. This is about the structure of adjective phrase. Would you please tell me time, please? Yes. Next we have, in the same way, we have adverb phrase. Adverb phrase complete. Let me give you example of he played very well. Very well. Yes. Adverb phrase. This one. Very well. So well over here is adverb. Very is considered as intensifier. It is intensifying in the manner of action. It may be called as intensifier, and this is adverb, and it would become as adverb phrase. Yes, adverb phrase. Again we have prepositional phrase. In prepositional phrase, preposition is compulsory part, and next noun phrase, complete noun phrase, as I have given you different examples of noun phrase. Yes. Preposition is compulsory part, and noun phrase, you know, the syntactic position of preposition, it mostly precedes the noun. In Urdu language it is somewhat different, right? Yes. So these are all phrase structure rules. We have specific patterns in sentence, and there are certain ways of grouping of different elements of a sentence, and those groupings, those constituents follow particular pattern as we have discussed in different examples. And there is a property of these phrase structure rules, and that is known as recursiveness. That means these phrase structure rules have got the capability for their repetition again and again. We can repeat the applicability of these rules to generate infinite number of sentences. So this is enough for today's lecture. Today we just talked about, after the complete recap of the previous class, we talked about the concept of phrases, how different words appear to form a group, and as words form a group, in the same way these phrases are not independent from one another. These phrases also depend one another in the sentence. So thank you so much for listening to today's lecture.